In recent years, the hip-hop world has lost some of its greatest talents in the prime of their careers, often completely out of the blue. Some of these deaths have shaken the entire music industry. The number one entry on this list continues to have an impact that's hard to believe. Stay tuned. 10. Mac Miller. Pittsburgh, early 2000s. A 6-year-old boy teaches himself to play the piano, guitar, and drums, even before he's thought about rapping. At 14, he starts writing. At 17, he signs his first record deal. His debut album achieved something no one had managed in over 15 years. Produced entirely independently, it reaches number 1 on the charts. The next few years bring him everything he's ever dreamed of, and one of the most high-profile relationships in the pop music industry with one of the world's biggest pop stars. But behind the scenes, he's long been struggling with an addiction, which he's become increasingly open about in his music. His latest album is his most personal yet and earns him a Grammy nomination. Just a few weeks later, he was dead. An accidental overdose cut short one of the most talented lives of the younger hip-hop generation, shortly after he had given the world his most honest work.
Beautiful thing, man. Music is a beautiful thing. All right. Music is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing. I don't need to lie no more. Nowadays, all I do is shine, take a breath, and ease my mind, yeah.
Chicago. A boy whose parents split up early on finds solace in music, piano, drums, guitar. He teaches himself to play them all. In high school, he starts rapping. One song, reportedly written in just 20 minutes, changes everything. It goes viral and lands him a $1 million deal at just 19 years old. What hardly anyone knows, he's actually related through his family to another rapper on this list, a second cousin whose story you'll hear in a moment. Shortly before his 21st birthday, he is at the peak of his career. He celebrates with friends in California and flies back to Chicago 6 days later. At the airport, his private jet is inspected by the police. What happens next ends his life before he was even old enough to fully grasp the significance of his own success. 8 PNB Rock. Philadelphia. His father was murdered when he was just 3 years old. His mother raised him on her own. At times, they were homeless. At 13, he ended up in a juvenile detention center. At 19, in prison. But even there, he continued to write. After his release, he takes the name of a street corner in his neighborhood, and within a few years, he builds a career that brings him together with the biggest names in the industry. His breakthrough hit goes triple platinum. On the evening that brought it all to an end, he was sitting with his partner in a restaurant. Just a few minutes earlier, she had posted their location publicly. What began as a normal evening ended with an armed robbery right before the eyes of the woman he loved. King Von, Chicago's South Side, a neighborhood known as the O Block. He spends several years in prison before he even considers getting serious about music. When he gets out, he transforms the chaotic stories of his street into cinematic narratives, songs that feel like short films. A childhood friend, who has long since become a big name in the rap game himself, immediately recognizes his talent and signs him to his label. Within a few years, he becomes one of the most influential voices in modern drill music. Just 1 week after the release of his debut album, he got into a fight outside a club in Atlanta. He didn't survive it. His second album, which he was never able to finish, debuted posthumously at number 1 on the charts. Born in Chicago, he grew up in Memphis with his grandmother because both of his parents were struggling with drug addiction. At just 23 years old, he released his first mixtape and founded his own label 2 years later. Instead of signing with a major label, he even turned down a lucrative offer. He wanted to remain independent, doing everything entirely on his own. In 2017, he survived a shooting in which nearly 100 shots were fired without sustaining a single injury. His armored car saved his life. Instead of stepping back, he became even more active in his community. On Thanksgiving, he personally handed out turkeys to families in his old neighborhood. On just such a charitable day, on his way to a cookie shop in his hometown, he was shot right in the middle of the neighborhood he had supported his entire life. Pop Smoke. Brooklyn. The son of a Jamaican mother and a Panamanian father. Almost by chance, in 2018, he began secretly recording his own voice during studio sessions with friends. A year later, his song literally exploded on the internet. Overnight, he became the face of a completely new New York sound. He collaborates with some of the biggest names in the music industry. His second mixtape reaches the top 10 on the Billboard charts, his biggest success to date. It is released on February 7, 2020. 12 days later, he is shot and killed during a home invasion in Los Angeles. An established superstar producer then takes over the completion of his debut album, which reaches #1 posthumously at exactly the time when he should have been celebrating his biggest breakthrough. XXXTentacion. South Florida, a difficult childhood marked by conflict and a stint in juvenile detention. It was there that he met another young artist. Together, they would later form a collective that would help shape the entire SoundCloud rap movement. One of his best-known songs was recorded in part while he was serving a prison sentence. It became a top 40 hit just a few years later. His second album debuted at #1 on the Billboard charts. He was just 20 years old at the time. Throughout his life, his career remained overshadowed by serious allegations. 3 months after his greatest commercial success, he left a motorcycle dealership in Florida. An alleged robbery ended his life at that very moment, at the height of his rise in the midst of controversy. DMX. Yonkers, New York. A boy who spends part of his childhood in juvenile detention centers and foster homes finds his first stage on the streets as a beatboxer. With his raw, powerful voice, he later signs with one of the most influential hip-hop labels of his time. What happened next is unprecedented in music history. His first 5 albums all debuted at #1 on the charts, a record that no other artist has broken to this day. He toured with the biggest names in the industry and founded his own foundation to help at-risk youth in the very city where he himself grew up. Yet throughout his life, he publicly battled an addiction that never quite let him go. At age 50, he suffered cardiac arrest following a suspected overdose. His memorial service in New York was broadcast live. Thousands of fans gathered to say goodbye to one of the most influential voices in East Coast rap. Takeoff, Georgia. He never knew his biological father. Instead, he grew up with his mother and his uncle, who is only a few years older than he is. While still in high school, the two of them formed a group together with a cousin. What began as a friendship among teenagers became one of the most influential groups in modern trap music. The three of them literally grew up under the same roof. You can hear that closeness in every song they've recorded together. Just a few weeks before his death, he spoke about that very bond in a podcast. No matter what happens, family is family. On the night that changed everything, he was out with his uncle in Houston. A dice game escalated into a fight, one in which he wasn't even involved. Yet one of the bullets struck him fatally. In the wrong place at the wrong time, the music world lost one of the most defining sounds of an entire era. Nipsey Hussle. South Los Angeles, Crenshaw. The son of an Eritrean immigrant and an African-American woman from LA. As a teenager, he joined a street gang and dropped out of high school. Music became his way out. He released his first mixtape in 2005, entirely on his own. Over the years, he built a reputation that extended far beyond music. One of the biggest names in the industry bought 100 copies of one of his mixtapes from him for $100 each. In 2017, he opened his own store in his old neighborhood. He also established a fish market, business, a barbershop, and an educational center for young people. His debut album, which was released only after years of trying, earned him his first Grammy nomination. On March 31, 2019, he was shot right in front of this very store, the symbol of his life's work. His death triggered something that hardly anyone would have thought possible: a nationwide ceasefire between rival gangs in Los Angeles. His memorial service was held at the Staples Center. Condolences poured in from sports legends to the then U.S. president. No other loss on this list has caused such a profound cultural shock. These artists have left their mark on hip-hop in very different ways, and will continue to do so through the music they've left behind. Which of these losses has affected you the most? Let us know in the comments.